This is the 3D VIEW-MASTER Showtime Mission Impossible. Good morning, Mr. Phelps. The man you are looking at is Dr. Eric Rocek, the nuclear physicist who has been missing and presumed dead. However, we have discovered that Rocek is alive and is being held by a totalitarian government unfriendly to us. Because they also hold his wife. He's forced to work on a new undetectable missile. Another enemy government fears this missile, and they have ordered this man, Alexander Ventless, a professional killer, to make certain that Rocek never completes his work. Your mission then, Jim, should you decide to accept it, is to rescue Rocek and his wife and to stop Ventless. As always, should you or any of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Picture 1. Jim Phelps spoke to the IM force in his apartment. Are we ready? Cinnamon, you have Anna Rocek's voice. Don't pat, down pat. Is your gear packed, Willie? And Rollin, besides brushing up on your lore, give us a rundown on impersonation techniques. Ventless is no ordinary killer. Look at these photographs. All Ventless? Inquired Rollin, looking closely. We think so, Jim replied. Now for Barney's gadgets. Barney opened a plain, ordinary suitcase revealing an array of electronic gear. This detection kit will work after a fashion, but underneath, he opened it, is our prize. Working rapidly, he assembled a small, saucer-like device that held a medical syringe. Moving the controls of a large console, he turned on the power. The saucer rose and flew about the room. Picture 2. The country was behind the Iron Curtain. The scene was a control bunker at a secret missile site. Captain Prieto, the security officer, watched the delicate second stage section of the test missile being unloaded from the hoist by a technician and rolled on a monorail towards Dr. Rocek's inner laboratory. There, Dr. Drom, the chief scientist, spoke 3 words into a voice lock, and the door of the inner room swung open. Picture 3. Dr. Rocek looked up from his work. What's this, Drom? Please address me as doctor. They've advanced our schedule. Your work on the second stage must begin now. When you deserve the title, Drom. Rocek replied testily. And I'm just not ready for the second stage computations. Colonel Zeigler's orders. The more you talk, the less time you will have with your wife. Dr. Drom walked out. At this moment, Alexander Ventless was taking his first steps toward his mission. Having ambushed Captain Prieto, he changed into his uniform and carefully drew over his own face a molded face mask of Prieto that was almost undetectable. The IM Force plan began with Barney reaching the road between the OBQ central building and the missile site. From a scaffolding, Willie transmitted a signal. In open country, Colonel Zeigler saw a car being ambushed, apparently under machine gun fire. After the colonel's soldiers drove away, the unseen attackers, Phelps thanked his rescuer and introduced himself as Major Anton Thorwald, with papers assigning him to the project. A sentry at the first checkpoint opened Phelps' suitcase and discovered the electronic equipment. Picture 4. Your identification, Major, must be confirmed, Zeigler informed him, looking down at the contents of the suitcase. In his office, he pushed a button on the control panel in his desk drawer. Then, reading the numbers 73942 from Phelps' ID card, he pushed down those keys in sequence. Now we will see if you are indeed Major Thorvald. Picture 5. On the road to the site, a stat telephone truck parked beside a manhole. Inside, Barney had finished tabbing the closed-circuit security lines. Now, as Zeigler clicked Phelps' ID numbers at his desk console, a red light lit up in the IM truck. Barney threw a switch and his TV camera transmitted the verification photo and numbers back to the colonel's office. Picture 6. At this point, another officer entered the office and was introduced as Captain Prieto. Even Colonel Zeigler could not penetrate Alexander Wentlow's superb disguise. Now an explanation, Major, the colonel demanded. You will understand the reason for the equipment in my suitcase when you learn why I have been sent here, Phelps assured him. A professional killer named Alexander Wentlos has been sent here to kill Dr. Rocek. I will prevent this. The man in Captain Prieto's uniform concealed his reaction well, saying, he would never get by our security checks. Zeigler took the photograph of Wentlos from Phelps and gave it to Prieto with an order. Post this at all guard stations. It will do you little good, Phelps told him. This killer is a master impersonator, which brings us to this detection device. He removed a vial. We will stamp each man of your project with this chemical, which must be renewed each week. See. He dabbed some on Prieto's hand and pointed the detector. The needle registers 5, maximum. It reacts only to this chemical. Very good, cried the colonel, laughing. Let's see this Wentlos impersonate a chemical. Prieto joined the laughter. Picture 7. In the capital city of the country, its principal hotel was the scene of another kind of ambush as reporters and photographers intercepted the famous Dr. Edmund Devery, accompanied by his blonde assistant. Dr. Devery, who had a marked resemblance to Rollin, denied that he was in the country for a heart transplant, insisting he was only a lecture tour and, after all, only an assistant to Dr. Mendel, the open heart surgery specialist. Free of the crowds in their 10th floor room, Rollin and Cinnamon went to work. Rollin spread his transformation kit and her hair began to darken. They spoke but briefly. The uniform and your ID card are in the small bag, Cinnamon. My part's done now until the phone call, Rollin said quietly. VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Picture 8. Dressed in a military uniform, with her hair completely black and tied back servilely, Cinnamon strode confidently into the office and saluted Colonel Zeigler. Zeigler had been telling Captain Prieto that Nadia Bredislau, an intelligence officer from OPQ Central, was on her way up. Phelps spoke up. Nadia Bredislau? You know her? Asked the colonel. Yes, we have worked together on several assignments. Turning to Cinnamon, the colonel said, I am Colonel Zeigler. This is Captain Prieto, and I believe you know Major Thorvald. Cinnamon's face appeared to widen. Phelps came up to her, looked closely and accused. She is not Nadia Bredislau. Picture 9. Astonished by Phelps' accusation, Ziegler grimly took Nadia's ID card. Reading numbers, he punched them out on his desk console. In the IM truck, Barney turned the TV camera on the photograph of a woman, not Cinnamon. "Who are you?" Ziegler demanded. When the false Nadia Bradislaw remained silent, Phelps voiced his opinion. "I believe I see a very clever plot here. It must have been Wendlers who tried to kill me to prevent my installing this detection system. This woman, whoever she is, must be his confederate." Apparently they had no way of warning her that the road ambush failed, so she walked right into a trap. The colonel frowned. "Captain Prieto, take her to the OPQ Central for detention and interrogation." Prieto's face was a study of underlying emotions. The last thing he wanted to do was to leave the building where his quarry, Dr. Rocek, was working, but now he had no choice. High above the entrance to the OPQ Central, Willie on his painter's scaffolding saw the security officer and a guard escort Cinnamon into the building. Inside, she was taken to the detention cells. A guard unlocked the elaborate alarm system and deactivated the circuit. Then her cell door was unlocked. She entered, and the door swung shut. Picture 10. The imposter disposed of, the colonel proceeded to show Phelps the various security measures employed. In the laboratory area of the underground bunker, he picked up a small-scale model. "This represents the second stage of the test missile. Dr. Rocek, our guest, is completing work on the full-size version of this section, which contains the guidance system and the propellant." "Where is the first section?" Phelps asked. "On the gantry. Its liquid fuel is in the process of being mixed right now, over there where you see the control dials. Now, Major, notice. Rocek's laboratory has only one door. There are no locks on it. You could not blast it open. Only one thing can open it. Sound." "Voice code? Certain words?" queried Phelps. Ziegler nodded. "Yes, but a little more sophisticated than that." He handed Phelps the microphone. "Say the words. January, suborbital, denomination." Phelps spoke the words, but nothing happened. Ziegler pulled a paper tape from beneath the control panel and laid it by his voice pattern, which he had punched. They were radically different. Like fingerprints, no two men's voice patterns are the same, the colonel lectured. "Only 3 voices will open that door. Dr. Drum's, Major Strat's, and mine." Picture 11. Back at OPQ Central, Willie raised his scaffolding to the roof and from beneath his drop cloth took a small powered winch which he attached to the chimney. Placing his foot in the nylon sling, he silently lowered himself into the chimney. 6 stories below, he found himself in the furnace. Carefully he opened the door and stepped out. He unzipped his coveralls, stepping out of them in the uniform of a guard. Crossing over to the master control for the alarm system, he took out an aerosol can. Through the louvre of the box he sprayed a thick, quick-setting foam which solidified, almost instantly freezing tight the delicate mechanisms within. Picture 12. After deactivating the alarm system, he found the stairs, climbed them, and located the guard station. Moving with remarkable silence for so huge a man, Willie stole up on the guard at the desk and with a quick judo chop silenced him. Scanning the list of prisoners, he found Nadia Bredislaw, 14. At cell 14 he began to pick the lock. Both he and Cinnamon, through the grated window, gave the alarm box an anxious look. The silence was reassuring. Cinnamon stepped out and took the bundle of clothing Willie handed her. Moving down the corridor, he quickly unlocked Anna Rocek's cell and let Cinnamon in. "Who are you?" asked Anna. "Mrs. Rocek, there is little time for explanations. Trust us. We are here to help you and Dr. Rocek. Do as I say, change into these workman's clothes." A few moments later, Anna Rocek was drawn up the chimney, and seconds after reaching daylight, she was hidden beneath Willie's painter's drop clothes. Picture 13. Colonel Ziegler was saying, "This hoist takes the missile components to ground level where they are tracked to the gantry." Suddenly, he and Phelps became aware of Dr. Rocek's voice. "No, I will not review your work. I will work no more." "You will do as Dr. Drom says," interposed the colonel. When Rocek refused, Ziegler called OPQ Central and ordered Mrs. Rocek brought to the laboratory at the missile site. Less than 20 minutes later, Anna, Cinnamon dressed in Anna's clothes and wearing the face mask of Anna, was ushered into the missile laboratory and marched up to the window of Rocek's lab. Coldly the colonel said, "Dr. Rocek, I'm sure I need not explain why your wife is here. Will you continue your work?" The scientist looked at Anna, slightly puzzled. He did not know whether to believe his eyes for his emotions. Finally he replied, "I have already given you my answer." Colonel Ziegler drew his service revolver, pointed it directly at Anna's head and began to pull the trigger. Picture 14. Phelps tried to speak calmly. "If you kill her, you won't have any hold on Rocek. May I try something, Colonel?" Ziegler dropped the gun and, grimacing, nodded. Phelps grabbed Anna and twisted her arm behind her back painfully. "Rocek," he cried roughly into the intercom, "there are many slower and more painful ways for your wife to die. Think about it for a while. In fact, think about it with your wife." Turning to the colonel, he whispered, "Let his wife in with him for a minute or two. Having her will make losing her to torture unbearable. But first, search her thoroughly." When they opened the door, Anna rushed into Rocek's arms. She could feel his body stiffen as he realized that she was not his wife. Cinnamon put her mouth to his ear and whispered, "Your wife is safe, Dr. Rocek. We've come to free you. Trust us." Then aloud for the intercom, "So you must go on with your work. I couldn't stand torture. Please." Then, whispering again, "Remove the grill of your ventilator at 2 o'clock. There'll be further instructions." "What is your answer, Rocek?" Ziegler demanded. Rocek paused, then in a low voice, "I will go on working." VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. Picture 15. After convincing the colonel that Anna should be detained nearby in case Rocek balked again, Phelps asked to be shown to his quarters. Locking the door, he opened a suitcase on the bed. By pressing a certain sequence of buttons, he removed the upper console of dials and switches. Underneath were the parts which he took out and began to assemble into a miniature flying saucer. Inserting a syringe and a vial into the finished saucer, he loosened the grill over the ventilator duct and placed the device inside, replacing the grill. Using a tiny transmitter, he contacted Barney in the IM truck. "I am in the third room in the north corridor. The saucer is in the west wall. 0 hour is 1400. 2 00 p.m. Picture 16. Watched anxiously by the real Anna and Willie, who had brought her to the IM truck, Barney acknowledged Phelps' signal and activated the saucer controls. He turned the power dial and moved the flight lever forward to the up position. Inside the ventilator, the saucer's propellers began to whir. The little craft lifted for its critical mission. Picture 17. Through the intricate ventilating system of the missile bunker, the saucer traced its way. Barney guided its progress by means of a glowing dot on the panels of the schematic. The tricky part will be in the last section of the shaft, he told Willie. The guidance system won't be as strong. And this is where trouble struck. The saucer sank to the bottom of the last section and was almost detected by a technician working on the mixing of the missile fuel. Barney turned the power dial up into the red and finally regained control. As the clock neared 2 p.m., Ventless, still masquerading as Captain Prieto, found himself again near his prey. Prowling the laboratory area, he watched a technician make a fine adjustment on the dial marked Fuel Mix Danger. Nervously, Dr. Rocek waited out the time until 2 o'clock. Dr. Trom was demanding final computations, but he refused, knowing that a long consultation would delay the plan. Finally, at Phelps' suggestion, the colonel ordered Dr. Trom to leave Rocek to finish his work in peace. Under the cover of his paperwork, he unfastened the grill. The saucer was there. He took out a syringe and a note which read, "Inject intervene. Will produce false heart attack symptoms. Call for Anna." Picture 18. Dr. Rocek paused a moment, then injected himself. Returning the syringe to the saucer, he closed the grill. Almost immediately his face contorted. He grabbed his chest and fell to the floor, calling for his wife, Anna. The project physician sent for her. Cinnamon, as Anna, held Rocek. Her grief was real, for she knew the pain and danger involved. Rowling rushed from the hotel in response to a call for Dr. Devery, heart specialist. There, he confirmed the project doctor's diagnosis of heart attack. If this patient is to live, open heart surgery must be performed within a few hours. Call for an ambulance from Wadinsky Hospital. Picture 19. Then Wendlos got the chance he had been waiting for. Dr. Devery was sent off with him to search the project dispensary for life support equipment. Instead, Rowling, as the doctor, was knocked out and dragged to Captain Prieto's room. Once there, Wendlos discarded the Prieto mask and quickly made a rubber cast from Rowling's face to become Dr. Devery. A few minutes later, Phelps was startled to see Rowling approach the unconscious Dr. Rocek with a syringe. "Is there something wrong, Rowling?" he asked. "This was not in the plan." Rowling gave Phelps a quick, strange look. Major Thorfold was an impostor. "Wendlos!" Phelps cried aloud, grabbing at his face, tearing the mask loose. Picture 20. Savagely, Wendlos broke loose from Phelps and drew a pistol. The fight was short and deadly. Major Stratt and a guard were hit by Wendlos' bullets, but he himself was shot. Knowing the wound to be mortal, he struggled through the door of the fueling section and, dying, twisted the critical dials. Rushing into the room, Dr. Trom was first to become aware of the danger. "Colonel Ziegler," he cried, "we must evacuate all personnel immediately. The fuel mix is fulminating out of control. It will explode in 7 minutes. Just then, Rollin appeared at the doorway dressed in Captain Preator's trousers and shirt, asking what had happened. "No time for explanations, Doctor," Phelps told him. "We must move the patient immediately." "Take him to the missile hoist," Dr. Droom directed. "It is the only elevator that can get us to the top in time. I'll go back and get the blueprints." Catching Phelps' signal, Cinnamon moved to the voice panel and activated the door switch, imprisoning Dr. Trom inside. Colonel Ziegler turned suspiciously, but before he could do anything, a quick judo blow on the side of the neck felled him. In the rising missile hoist, Dr. Rocek came to and looked in horror at the missile section on the elevator with them. "Stop the lift," he shouted weakly. "I sabotaged the second stage firing control. It's set to go off at ground level." Phelps worked furiously under Rocek's directions and, just in time, detect the firing mechanism and started the lift. Picture 21. 1 minute and the fuel mixture goes. Phelps announced. The lift rose with agonizing slowness, but at last they reached the top. They ran from the bunker area, supporting Dr. Rocek as the first explosion flattened them. They gained the road and found the Wadinsky ambulance, with Barney and Willie waiting for them. There was no time for a reunion between Dr. Rocek and Anna, as the ambulance drove off, blast after blast, destroyed the bunker, and the secret of the anti-detection missile was safe in the hands of the free world.